Shalom. This is your brother Samak coming to you with another lesson through the Spirit, giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who do rule well, and peace and blessings to the elect. All right, so just getting out of training. I just wanted to pretty much do a lesson talking about being profitable unto yourself, right, and being a practitioner of the word first and foremost, right? So there's you don't want to be caught up in a situation where you don't make it to a chariot because you were a great teacher unto many men, right, and many sheep. You were a great shepherd unto the sheep, but yet you didn't practice the principles that you preach. And I call that the fake the funk spirit. Right? You're faking the funk because you're coming onto the videos and you're pretty much giving all of this great and sound advice, helping build brothers up, which is good. But you don't want to be the man that you build up other brothers to greatness, but you yourself never achieve greatness. All right, you yourself are average, but the advice and the teachings that you give, all right, lead to exceptional men, or help build men to exceptional, right? So, or greatness. And the scriptures say it again. The scriptures say there's a man who is profitable to many, or a teacher of many, but is not profitable unto himself. All right, and that's basically like James said, be a doer of the word, not a hearer only, because it's easy to read the scriptures, recite the scriptures, and give advice based on the scriptures, but the hard part is actually living the scriptures. And this is something that you're not going to be perfect, right? We didn't come into this world perfect, right? But we're going to be made perfect through this word. But you have to remember that you're not going to get it right every time. You're not going to be 100% every day. But you need to focus on doing what's necessary. And everything that I preach unto you, I practice myself to the best of my ability. I don't get it right 100% of the time, no. But I do my best. And I can say that because I'm so, like the word I like to always say, introspective, because I'm so introspective, I'm my own, I don't want to say worst critic, but I'm my own most strict critic, right? If that makes any sense, right? I judge myself before anyone can judge me, right? I always think about, sometimes it can be to a fault, but it's growth. You're learning as you go. I've gotten better over the years, but I always genuinely look to build myself up to the best of my ability and make sure that I'm checking myself before I let anyone check me. And Salakia for if my voice sounds so stuffy, my sinuses is acting up. But I always genuinely try to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do and I'm checking myself first and foremost. And then when I learn any new tactics and techniques and I put them to work, and if I find it to be profound, then I go ahead and I do these lessons to exhort your brothers and your sisters to maybe try to add it into your routine, or take what you can. But I'm always an advocate for, you gotta have some type of stability, you gotta have rigidity. And like I said, I've always been I've fallen into the trap of thinking that flexibility is freedom, which it is to an extent. Flexibility is freedom when you're able to move your plans around for something that is more important. That's the freedom. But flexibility meaning, I only work a part-time job and my days switch around so that I can just work when I want to work and I can take off when I want to take off. It's kind of like, it's a false sense of freedom, because what that does is it breeds complacency and it breeds laziness. Because if your boss doesn't tell you to come in, how likely are you to come in? unless of course you're genuinely hurting for money, you have no choice. But even then, like for example, I used to drive, I was unemployed for a little bit, back in like 2021. I was unemployed for maybe about 9-10 months, and it was voluntary. But I was like, you know what, I'm only making this much at this job right now, I'm only getting so much hours, let me just drive Uber, and then I can make my own schedule. And I tell you what, you know how many times I was supposed to wake up at 5:30, 5:45, be on the road by 6, drive from 6 to 12, come home, take a nap, go to the gym, do whatever, and then go back out at 3 and drive until about 5 or 6. Would have been about a 8-9 hour day, which genuinely I should have been able to make like 250, 300 if I would have did that specifically. You know how many times I didn't wake up, I slept in until 7, drove 8, drove until 12, 4 hours, didn't go back out, and then if I did go back out, drove for like an hour or two. Like, there's no structure unless you're a super disciplined person, which most people are not. You're not going to really be able to adhere to that unless you lock in, right? And you have a rigid routine. You have to have that rigid routine. Like, that's something that you have to do, and then it becomes habit. Now, unless you're somebody you just can't find a good job, I had access to good jobs, right? I had credentials, experience, and stuff like that, so I could have easily worked a job. But the point of this lesson ultimately is to hone the point back in, is to make sure that you are being a practitioner of the words that you preach. And you're not just coming on here and doing a lesson to edify people, but you're not edifying yourself, because what good is it? 1 Corinthians 13 says that you can have all the prophecies and wisdom and do all the great works, right? In terms of like, teaching and prophesying and know the mysteries. And you can do all this and have the most following and put up the most videos. You can do all these things. You can edify the most sheep. But if you are not living the very words that you were preaching, you are not going to you're not going to be delivered, bro. It's just that simple, because who you are off camera is different from who you are on camera. I'm the same person, bro, on camera and off camera. I don't do too much on camera, and I don't do too much off camera. It's just that simple. I'm not going to come on here and boast and make myself to seem like I know all these. No, I don't. I've been in the truth for as many years as I've been in the truth, and every day I'm learning. Every day I can do better. Every day I'm trying. And it's always going to be that way. I'm never going to come on here and I don't even have the spirit to want to be puffed up, because, I was watching a brother's lesson earlier, and he was talking about that. I can't remember which brother it was in my history, but he was talking about basically that. Like, you can't be someone different off camera than you are on camera. You got to be the same person. And he was going into how he has experienced men and his examination of men. And it's funny, when I watched the video, I also have had this observation of men in the truth, and in the camps. And I've seen it. I've witnessed brothers personally that you can tell. And he said, basically, you can tell that some brothers in the world, just being very blunt, they were losers. And they're still losers off camera. They come onto the videos and they puff themselves up to and speak in certain manner, and they you know what I mean? They present themselves to be this holy, structured, exceptional man. But as soon as the camera goes off, he's a bum. He's a loser. If you, an example was like, if you're manipulating men in the truth, you're a loser, because you were doing it. That means you manipulate people in the world. You manipulate people in the truth. You using your position to take advantage of brothers. You're a loser, bro. So the observation was basically like, you got men who never really had a lot of friends, or they didn't have any much, I guess you could say popularity. They were nobodies in the world. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't really have many friends. They didn't have many acquaintances. A lot of people didn't show them a time of day, and they didn't have didn't deal with women. You know what I mean? Like, this is who they were in the world, and that's okay. But when you come into the truth, you know, this is an opportunity, and like I said, I've witnessed this myself, and I had this observation. Brothers will come into the truth, and they'll use this as an opportunity to make a name for themselves. Like, okay, all right, all I got to do is know the most breakdowns and make the most glamorous videos, and I can build a following. And then brothers actually, you know, they get a following. They get, you know, 1,000, 2,000, you know, 10,000 subscribers or whatever. They're getting hundreds and thousands of views, and they're getting comments, and they're going live, and they're having people all on their live streaming. You know what I mean? And it's feeding their ego, and then they're thinking they're somebody. But as soon as the camera goes off, man, they go right back to their nobody lifestyle, bro. Eating like shit, living like shit, not bathing properly, you know, just involved in all type of folly and niggerdom all day long. You know what I mean? Every time they get around brothers, they just want to make it seem like they always want to talk about the scripture. Now, granted, nothing wrong, but like the balance is sometimes, brothers, we might talk about certain interests, like, yo, talking about a fight, or maybe we're talking about a sports game, or we just talking about, you know, anything. Just, you know, we just shooting the shits, right? It's the balance. The flesh has the portion of the flesh, but every time, brother, he always want to make it something spiritual, to try to make it seem like he's this super religious, righteous, spiritual man, but in reality, he's not, bro. All right, you have to be a practitioner of this word, bro. And you'll notice, usually the men who are the coolest in the world, they're the coolest in the truth. It's just the way it is, bro. And, you know, that comes down to, you know, upbringing, just, you know, personal life. And I've noticed that, bro. The coolest brothers are the brothers that don't try to do too much, bro. All right, so if you're a brother, like, this is why you got to be you have to self-reflect. You know what I mean? And once upon a time, I've caught myself in that spirit, you know, when I was younger and growing up, you know, and I've always been, you know, a pretty cool guy. But even then, you know, I've caught myself trying to do things for the acceptance of others, and trying to come off a certain way rather than just being genuine. And if people don't fuck with me, they don't fuck with me. And those who fuck with me, bro. And this is something I've learned from my father, but, you know, sometimes you got to go through experiences for it to really kick in. So, yeah, you notice that the men who really genuinely are don't do too much, you can see it in their lessons that they're edifying, but they're not trying too hard. You know, it comes natural. And those are usually the men that you can tell that they really lived this truth. You usually can tell how a man is in his personal life based on how he speaks, bro, and how he communicates with brothers, bro. And I've seen it, I've done it, bro. I've been around men who boasted themselves up, and they cornballs, man. I'm just calling it like I see it, bro. Just calling it like I see it, man. It ain't about popularity. It ain't about who's the fittest. It ain't about who's the flyest, who's the most handsome, who's got the best beard or whatever. It's not about who gets the most women. It's not about none of that, bro. It's about who's genuine, who's authentic, and who really is a man of their word, who practices what they preach. That's a man worthy of respect. And usually you see it from, and let's just be honest, naturally, if a man is always talking about, let's say, health and fitness, and when you see that brother, he's fit, you know, he's lean, he's always, every time you see him eating clean, you know what I mean? Like, he's a man of his word, bro. He practices what he preach. Now, I'm not saying that you may be a brother that you may be working on it and you want to preach about it because you've been learning about it, and that's okay. The point is to keep in mind that if you are preaching something, you're teaching someone something, make sure that you are yourself practicing and doing that very same thing. You don't want to be a hypocrite, as the scripture says. You don't want to be a hypocrite. Just like the scripture says, judge not lest ye be judged. For the judgment that ye give, ye shall also be judged. So you can't judge your brother and try to rebuke your brother for, I don't know, whatever, bro, drinking too much. But every time you fucking put the camera, every time you go hit the crib, bro, you drink a bottle of wine, you drink a liquor every single day. You may just not be as much of a lightweight, but you still drinking just as much as his brother, if not more. You just don't appear to be as drunken as his brother. because that's just you know what I mean. So, but you're no different than him, bro. So, I believe the point was made. All right, practice what you preach. All right, and don't be a man that's profitable to many and not profitable to yourself. All right, be a doer of the word and not a hearer only, man. And if you do that, okay, every day you focus on being 1% better. You're gonna mess up some days, but as long as you get right back on track, you will be all right. So, Lord willing, this video was edifying. All right, once again, we give all praise to you. How about Shemi Shai? Till next time, shalom.